Hola familia, this is Edith. So you might hear a new voice today. We have, two new voices today. We have two of our crew members joining me today as we talk a little bit more on what's happening with our podcast. So for sure today we're missing Yessie in this little introduction, but she'll be part of our video recording for today. But who do we have here today?
Yo, yo, it's John Doe, your producer. How's it going?
Hi, this is Anna or Annabelle. My legal and professional name is Annabelle, but friends and family call me Anna, your manager, or LloronaPeroChingonaPod's manager. Yeah.
So today, Yessie is too busy with vacation, moving, other life stuff. So also the wedding. So we just decided to do a little introduction just to keep the podcast going and let you guys know some things that are happening in the next couple of weeks. But just wanted to check in. How's everyone doing?
Doing very well.
What's new? What's new?
Well, as you can hear in the background, you can also hear Aurora and her toys. She is officially all over the place. She is a crawler and is standing everywhere. As Edith may also have mentioned that she is getting into her plants.
Yes, she really is.
So honestly, it's just having to look after her now because she is nonstop. But other than that, life's been pretty good. Just work and yeah.
Nice. What about you, producer?
Nothing much. I mean, we haven't been recording for a while, so.
He's on a little vacation himself, too.
With the editing and all that.
Well, yes. So, we're missing Yessie with our introduction, but,
Sorry, what about you, Edith?
well, yeah, me. Life is good. We're getting ready to go to Mexico in the
Oh,
next
that's
few
fun.
weeks. So
That
that's
is right.
Yeah.
So that's fun. We go to fun fact, if y'all didn't know, Annabelle, Hando, and our siblings. So if you didn't know, now you know. But we're going to Mexico where my mom is from. Well, our mom is from.
Her mom.
So mom.
And yeah, so we're going to go spend the week over there.
In St. Louis City and
Yeah.
Mexico.
But I'm excited.
Butterville.
Yeah, it's La Mantequilla San Luis Potosí.
Yeah, yeah.
Como
Represent.
dicen los de antes, ahí ya tiene su casa por si gustan visitarnos.
But yes, so what's new? What's going on not only with your life but outside of, like, in the world, I guess?
Well, we've just been waiting for the rain, honestly, especially in Mexico.
Oh my God, yes.
Because I feel like, because we went in May, well, I went in May, and Edith also went, but it was super hot. It was honestly probably hotter than here, which if you live in Austin or in Texas in general, you know how hot it is. So it felt even hotter. And the only good thing about Mexico is that it does get a little breeze at night and in the morning sometimes, but even then it still felt really hot.
Mm-hmm.
So like to them it's like they're in hell, honestly, because it's horrible. So hopefully we're hoping to get some rain so that way that goes away and it feels nice.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of crazy new things. Talking about Mexico, Mexico has a new president.
Oh,
She's
that's
a
right.
female.
It's a female. great.
That's history.
Literally.
I think they said it was the first one in North America.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it's like the first female. That's pretty cool. Hopefully that will mean that it will open the doors for other women in other areas because it's hard
In other countries too. So
In other
hopefully
countries.
it's like an eye opener for other countries to see that women can also take charge.
Yeah. And hopefully, like, I feel like I have seen so many different things about it where people are not really taking it seriously because men don't take women seriously in higher positions like that where they feel like they cannot have the power. But I feel like I don't really know much about her and stuff like that, but from some of the interviews that I've seen on TikTok, like, she it looks like she knows what she's doing, and hopefully, like,
It wasn't just all talk. Yeah, because that's the thing with like politics, especially during like the campaigns and everything. They talk all of this, and then whenever they get to like actually doing something, pues no hace nada. So hopefully, we'll see. Because I mean, I feel like if you were to ask, because like I did ask a few like of Kiko's, which if y'all don't know, Kiko's my husband. So he has family members in Mexico that they're like really into politics. And I was asking them like their point of view, and every single one of them had their own opinion, which obviously we all do, but it was like some of them were like super against her, and like some of them were like super for her. So it's kind of like hard to know, like, is she really like gonna make a change? So time will tell. We'll see if she does make a good change.
Like, I feel like people are scared because this is all very new. So they're going to be like, what the hell? Like, people hate change.
Yeah.
Like,
and not just that, but I think because like the ones that didn't like her is because they wanted something different from what the current president was doing. And so he basically, what's it called whenever you like put her as a candidate, basically.
Yeah, I think they're from the same party, right?
Yeah, so he basically proposed for her to be the president. So I don't know what it's called. It has the words, but basically, yeah, he did that. So I think that's why people didn't really like her, because they wanted something different. Not really like, basically she's going to continue what he's doing now, which I know he has done some good things, but he's also like, to them, he hasn't really done much. So I don't know. I feel like everybody has their own opinion. So let's not get too much into that.
Since we live over here in the US,
because we could say that it's not doing like, to us it's like he's doing good, but what if to them it's not, or the opposite? So it's like us with our presidents, but yeah, it's
that's a whole different conversation that we're not gonna jump into, but that's new. What else have we been doing?
Honestly, not much, which is good because we used to have parties back to back.
Oh yeah, that is true.
We're definitely taking a break from that so we can do that in Mexico, because in Mexico we're for sure gonna have parties every single day.
Every single day. And then in August, family parties start.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel like after the summer is like the busiest time of the year for like our families.
Yeah. Our summer is like the chill time for parties, because we don't really have many. Which is good, because we definitely need to take a break from that. Our liver needs it.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else you want to share, just a little. So today, our guest for today, we're going to hear more about her, but it's a really great topic that not only as a first gen, but also as adults, it's a very important topic, talking about housing, mortgage, buying a house, investing, those like really taboo topics that we had growing up that were not being taught much, that I wish they were.
That we should have learned in school. It's definitely one of those topics that you wish you would have learned in school, that you think it's what you actually need in life, not all these other things that you don't need, or you learn that you don't even use. So
exactly. But yeah, so our guest, she's amazing. We will share her information on our descriptions if you want to hit her up and learn more about our topic for today. But we will still try to stay active on socials. But for now, we're taking a break on recording until we get a little bit more steadiness, not just us, but also our co-host, Yessie. But thank you guys for being patient, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you guys have any questions, you can always look us up on social media or send us an email. Thank you and enjoy.
Hi, familia. On today's episode of Llorona Pero Chingona, we have Maria Hernandez from Amazing Realty to talk about investing, buying a home, and learning different hacks. Maria is a first gen and has been a realtor for over a year now, with her number one focus being helping the Latino community and to help others to get into real estate. Maria has a 15-year history of investing in real estate, which includes short-term rentals. Please help us welcome Maria.
Bienvenida, Maria.
Gracias.
Girl.
So Maria, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about where you're from?
Of course, and thank y'all for having me. Born and raised in a little town by Victoria, Texas called Ganado. If you drive down Highway 59, you will pass it by blinking it.
What's the population?
It's less than 1,000 people.
Oh my
We have one
goodness.
stoplight, and I think there's more cows than people, but
Wow, that's a small
I've
town.
never heard of Ganado,
no,
Texas.
it's in
No.
the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in Austin?
I just recently moved back about 4 years ago.
Mhm.
I've originally got to know Austin when I graduated high school back in 1999. Because it's so small, I wanted to come to a bigger university, came to UT and loved it, stayed here for 10 years, went back to Ganado for about 10 years and came back. So we've been back and forth here.
Yeah.
But Austin is where I now call home.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Well,
awesome.
we're happy to have you here. in
Thank you.
Austin as a
Yeah.
native.
Like, you're super welcome. Tell us about your first gen experience. What was it like growing up just being first gen?
So one thing that I want to share is I'm a 45-year-old first generation Latina. And for me, I'm loving all the changes that the younger generation is now bringing to have a voice to our cultura and to say no to a lot of the things that I grew up with as a first gen.
Mhm.
I love the resources that I see that are out there now. When I
Mhm.
grew up and went to college, well, in high school, the only colleges that I knew about was UT or A&M.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about the different resources. I graduated second in my class. If I would have known what was out there, I could have gotten full rides to many different places.
Yeah.
But as a first generation Latina, my parents didn't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
Our small town was so tiny. It was either UT or an A&M, and that was it. And guess where I went to is UT.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get some scholarship money. But the biggest observation that I have now of what I grew up with was just the lack of knowledge, the lack of knowing what's out there, the lack of resources. The internet back in the day was barely up and coming.
Mm-hmm.
But that's now in my goal in the real estate. And my goal is to help others with real estate, to now have that knowledge and being able to share the different types of knowledge and encourage others that hay suficiente para todos and whatever you dream to be, whether it be real estate, whether it be your education, whether it be a trade, there's so many different resources.
Yeah.
So I grew up knowing what my parents taught me and knowing what this education taught me. And it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But now if we can just help educate each other, we can go such a long way.
Yeah. I guess what are kind of piggybacking off of that, like what are some things that you've learned along the way that you carry with yourself from growing up without like the resources that we now have?
I think one of the biggest takeaways from that is perseverance and not being afraid to change what we grew up with.
Mhm.
Change goes a long way porque si nos quedamos con la costumbre, because I see a lot of people around me, especially at my age, que pues ya es conforme, we're okay with that.
Mhm.
I'm okay with having a house. I challenge you to have more than one investment property. I'm okay with having, I have an okay job. Nombre, nowadays, like, no, learn bigger and better. I've also learned to not be silent. Porque I grew up with as a Latina, siendo mujer, that, oye, tú no tienes mucha opinión.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And another big takeaway that I've learned just from growing up is igual que en el amor, que busquemos una pareja que nos apoye.
Mm-hmm.
And that really makes a big difference in the household from coming from a very machista household that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't talk about investments, we don't talk about money. I didn't even get taught money. I learned it the hard way coming to college and getting that credit card off the drag there. But being able to now teach that and try to teach others on how to make healthy investments, how to manage your money wisely, how to save, how to find those high yield savings accounts, y hablar y tener buena comunicación, and being able to say no to relationships too when they no longer work for you.
Mm-hmm. I love all that. I think that's such a like great insight into like things that we weren't taught that we have to kind of like learn ourselves as like first gens.
Yep.
Mhm. And like you said, as a first gen, we learned the hard way.
We learned everything the hard way.
Mhm.
Both of my parents worked and I was taking care. I'm the oldest of 7. So yo estaba cuidando a los hermanitos. And I was working when I was a freshman in high school, our local Dairy Queen, y a la hora de la hora, I didn't have any money because igual no nos enseñaban, and I wanted the nicer things. And again, our parents didn't teach us to save. Our parents didn't teach us how to manage money. O a la hora de la hora, what money can bring wealth in a different way, si lo sabes, to invest. And investment doesn't always mean stocks. That's another thing that I've been learning, is that investment can be a nice little car que luego lo puedes arreglar y vender, a house, a property, that again, that como ahorrar. No más gastar to be like the Joneses, como los vecinos. No, como verlo tan diferente, o igual, como viajar, como conocer este mundo tan grande y tan bello que tenemos in a completely different light. I was taught just to stay in Guinedo. There's nothing else out there for you.
And you were like, no, me voy.
Me voy. I didn't know what I was going for. And now even being here with you all today, que puedo utilizar mi voz to help others when it comes to real estate, can go a long way. Todo pasa por algo.
Yes.
Todo pasa por algo.
And I feel like that tags along with our next question. We hear that you're a realtor, and
Yes.
but can you tell us a little bit more about your career and what you do for a living?
Yep. So my day-to-day job is I'm a program manager for a company that has fruit. So you can try to figure out the name of that company. But its logo is a fruit. I've been with the company as a program manager for over 15 years, going on 16 years. Y vamos a lo mismo that I mentioned earlier, is that we weren't taught to aim for bigger and better. Lo que yo fui acostumbrada is once you get a good job and you have health insurance, which I started my journey coming into Austin 21 years ago. I worked for a cellular company. ¿Sabes qué? They have insurance. Stay there forever. That's what, that's all I knew. No one taught you anything different. And I love y'all's generation now, that as long as you're learning and you're growing, it's okay to stay with the company for a few years and then move on to a bigger that's going to teach you something else. One of the things that I didn't know that I was doing is that I was a real estate investor about 15 years ago. I purchased a house and I completely renovated it, went all the way down to the beams, the 2x4s. And learning that into project management, I was like, oh, I sort of kind of fell into it. My day-to-day job taught me how to manage the monies. My day-to-day job taught me how to manage a project. Like, hey, you tear down a house, you now have to focus on this thing first, the electricidad, the plumbing, the roof, the siding, the whatever it is. But one of the things, sorry, I'm flip-flopping all over the place because I'm so passionate, is that the next job that I went to, that I've been at for the last 16 years, is where nos conformamos. I didn't use my voice to grow and build myself within the company. And I was okay just being a team manager, being a little project manager. And that's one of the things that I just want to share, is that don't be afraid to be your best advocate, and also don't be afraid to your own best advocate, and don't be afraid to strive for something bigger and better. In real estate, in your job, because again, I've been at the company for 16 years and just received my first promotion 6 months ago. So always look to better yourself, even if you weren't taught. Ask yourself what you're good at. Ask yourself what else you can do internally, externally, and always look to better yourself when it comes to your career. Because again, we're not taught that. You're taught, or I was taught, is ya quédate allí. You got great insurance. It's a Monday through Friday. ¿Qué más quieres? No, queremos better stocks, better benefits, better bonuses. Y tienes que crecer cada vez. Never stay stagnant.
So in learning, like, your project management job helped you with your real estate, and then from there, from buying your first house and I guess flipping it, was that like, was it natural for you to just be like, I'm gonna flip this and then just like sell it? Or
so I like to flip and hold, which means that I hang on to the properties. So my first flip house was a house that I bought in Guinedo, and I fell into it because I needed a place to live. Pero I was a fixer-upper, and a lot of times people are afraid of the ugly without looking at the pretty. So my first piece of advice is don't be afraid to look at an ugly house, because paint, sheetrock, and a lot of love can go a long way. But don't be also afraid to say, I can't do it or I have the funds. Todo se puede with all the different resources and different types of loans that are out there. So I bought this first house pensando que, okay, we're going to make it. Nombre, si hubiera sabido what I know now, I would have torn that house down and never flipped it because it was hard. But it gave me that knowledge that I know now in regards to everything from the roof all the way down to the foundation. And that knowledge, no one can take away. Because you can see what a house needs when you start it from scratch. I call myself an accidental landlord because igual lo que yo me enseñaron is you got to save your money. What we're saving it for, I don't know, pero tienes que ahorrar. Debajo de la cama del banco, no sé, pero you save your money when you can. No gastes mucho, no presumas. And learning what that house salió otra casita en el pueblo, I was like, oh, I can buy this property. But also because we're not taught, I bought a property, and this was about maybe 15 years ago that I bought, maybe about 13 years, between 12 and 13 years that I bought a property cash. I will never recommend anybody to buy a property cash. Porque lo que haces is that you put all your funds in that house, and instead it's take a loan out. That's how you start doing the landlord. So with that money, it's putting a little bit down, putting your 20% down if it's an investment property, and keeping the other part of it for the next flip. And keep on growing that, because your goal is to have somebody else pay that rental property, so they're paying the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance.
Yeah.
So yo puse todo mi dinero, because again, no one taught you this, but if somebody could taught me that, with that money that I put on one house, I could have bought like 4, putting a 20% down, and getting renters in there, and they're paying all your property. So from there, I knew I was going to come back to Austin one day y empecé a buscar around the area. I'm a single mom. I have a 22-year-old, and back then, I couldn't afford it, Austin. And so I started looking outside, and I found Smithville, Texas. And I love country. Ganado is a bunch of country living, and I was looking out in Smithville, and an opportunity came up that had a little pond on it. And back then, in 2018, Airbnb was starting to get up and coming, and always in my mind, always in my heart, I was like, maybe one day I'll make this an Airbnb. I'm going to fix it and flip it. But still hold on to it, because I wanted to make it an Airbnb or something. That was my next property that I bought. This time I was smart because I was learning, putting my 20% down and starting to fix it up on my own. It did take me 3 years to fix, and that's another lesson that I've learned, is sometimes you got to do it faster, even if it means paying somebody else, because the faster you can get somebody to pay your rental, your mortgage and such, the more that you can get money out of it at the long day. A veces uno también, the Mexicano, we can do it ourselves. I'm going to save $500.
Yeah.
But that $500 takes you 6 months.
Yeah.
No, pay somebody $500 and it takes you 3 weeks to do. So igual, ¿qué puedes hacer que te ahorra tiempo, pero a lo largo te sale dinero?
Yeah.
Because that $500 took me 3 years. The da-da-da here took me 3 years. It took me 3 years to get that house ready. And then my next investment is, I keep on going, is coming to live and purchasing a house and being able to afford a house in Austin as a single income. If I can do it as a single mother with all the lessons that I've learned, and I've learned lessons all the hard way because no one taught me. And all the education that's out there, a lot of it, no offense to Dave Ramsey, I love him. He was great for when I needed him, but that's not how to increase your wealth. And my goal now is how to help others really increase their wealth when it either comes to buying their first home and not being afraid to buy your first home at whatever age.
Yeah. So in a sense, you kind of just fell into
I fell into it.
Into investing. And I guess you learned along the way, and
trial and error.
It's crazy because last year my brother and I, we started renovating our childhood home.
Oh, I love that.
And we became owners of it. So we went all dived in. But like you said, we went blind, like no sin nada, sin hacer research ni nada de eso, which I don't recommend. And then everything that you're saying is literally what we're dealing with. Like, it's a lot of trial and error, like como cosas de que I was like, oh, we shouldn't have done that, or we should have done this instead of that. And it's tough. Like, it's
really
hard.
There aren't a lot of resources if you don't have someone to back it off. Y es cierto lo que dicen, lo barato sale caro when it comes to real estate.
Yeah. And I think even like the overwhelming feeling of like knowing that there is a lot of like information on the internet and like not knowing where to even like start or like and even the intimidation, because my fiance and I, we think about buying a house, right? But then I look back at like, well, like there's shame in like if I do have debt, like how much debt is it, and is my credit like not enough, and how is this going to affect us? And there's so much shame around it that it
yeah, you're not supposed to have debt. Por eso tienes que ahorrar y tienes, you know, tenerlo debajo de la cama. Oh, credit cards are bad. Yes, if they're improperly used, I learned that in college. But there is good debt out there. There is good debt. Buying a brand new 25 truck that's, you know, you're paying $1,000 a month, that's bad debt. You know, you can get something different, especially depending on what your debt to income ratio is. Buying a house will never be bad debt. But again, one of the things that I learned in my journey was, ay, tengo que pagar esta casa bien rápido. And that's what I did. I paid off my first house in Ganado in 5 years. But again, I kick myself because that money that I've invested into it, I could have bought like 4 more houses with that. Because again, you want to build your wealth. You don't want to put todos tus huevitos en una casa. Because again, that's what we're taught. We're not supposed to have debt. And no, there is good debt out there as long as you, again, credit cards and having 20 of them and having them all maxed out, not good. Having a home that's going to build your wealth, especially if you now then rent it after a couple of years, because now you've increased your promotion, you've gotten more money. Absolutely. Go buy another house and rent that one out. People are always looking for rentals. People are now always looking for Airbnbs. They're looking for midterm rentals. That's something that's huge right now in the Austin area. Da la oportunidad. But again, it's the education that's out there. It's learning the hard ways, because there's so much. Sometimes it's overwhelming. You don't know where to start. Igual, for me, yo lo puedo hacer todo. I can put tile in 5 months later. No, I can't. Let me hire somebody, and I've lost 5 months.
Yeah, that is very true. And I feel like a lot of it too, like as us that we come from like Mexicans and Hispanic community, it's like miscommunication too. I feel like a lot of it is we have to leave it to the professionals. Like, come on, let's be real. That we have to like tragarnos ese orgullo y aceptar de que we are not superheroes and we can do everything. Like we have to admit that we need the help. And I feel like how I'm telling you, with this whole house renovation, we've learned all of it.
All of it. Yeah. Y también lo que aprendí yo is that people, like you said, leave it to the professionals. Y estás pagando no solamente por su knowledge, por la herramienta, por el tiempo, por todos los que ellos pueden hacer that we don't know. Y igual, no tener ese envidia de que hey, that professional knows more than I do. No le quiero pagar, porque igual otra cosa que somos malos de los latinos, or that I've observed, somos bien codos. And sometimes we got to leave that orgullo aside and pay the professional, porque nos ahorra el tiempo, el dolor de cabeza más importante, our sanity. Because I don't know how many times y'all might have wanted to throw the towel in, or you're like, why did I start this? Pero ahora tenemos que terminar. Pero sí, es que igual apoyando a otro latino en su profesión.
That is very true. So what are some common misconceptions and misinformation that people you have worked with that have dealt in regards of buying their first home or investing in property?
The number one misconception is that I can't afford it. Have you really, anyone that's interested, have you really looked at your numbers to see what can you afford? Honestly, a lot of these nice apartments, I lived off of Congress when I moved back to Austin 4 years ago. I lived off of these apartments of Congress, and I was paying almost $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. That, and then you start paying all the other fees. I was almost like at $2,500 a month for an apartment. If you really start looking into that, that's the price of a nice home out in Kyle or Buda, depending on where your work is at and what works for you. But the first misconception is, I can't afford it. Pero están viviendo en depa, aquí cerca del centro, or, you know, here I was living off of Congress, brand new apartment, beautiful. Pero estaba pagando $2,500 al mes, and we can't afford it. You've really got to change that misconception of what you can afford and what's in your budget. Now, yes, you might not be able to afford, you know, Westlake area, but we may be able to afford Buda, Kyle, or South Austin. So really taking the time to look at your numbers and what can you afford and what you are comfortable with. Looking at what your lifestyle is. A veces también en uno es de que tenemos que cambiar el gusto de vida. Por ejemplo, man, I love buying shoes every weekend. Oye, but you're paying $500, $600 for shoes. What are your priorities? Yeah, what are your priorities? What can you say? Porque una casa nunca va a bajar de valor. Land and home will never lose value. And especially in this area, al contrario, it increases value.
Yeah. So what number should first homeowners or like people that want to like buy either a an investment property or like a first home, what number should they be looking at?
Well, all it's going to depend on their income. So the first thing that you want to get started with is bringing all your income to the table, but also bringing all your debt. So being realistic. So again, if you have that $1,000 truck payment and you're barely making $3,000 a month, you might not be able to afford it. So really looking at your numbers. That's one thing that once you're ready to start, and I encourage anyone that again is already living in an apartment and already paying for things on your own, don't be afraid to bring your numbers to a realtor, because then we can partner you. And that's another thing that we make the misconception of is like, oh, I'm just gonna go to my one bank. No, don't go just to one financial institution. Once they pull your credit for the first time, within the first 30 days, you can get 2 other basically quotes to see what can you afford. So really looking at your debt to income ratio and looking to see what you can afford and getting 3 different options within that first 30 days, because it won't hit your credit 3 different times. The first 30 days, it's all going to be in one. So by doing that, seeing what can you afford, what is that you're looking for, and one of the things that I really love to tell people about is house hacking, which means, for example, myself, I'm 45, I am single, I don't have any children in my home, I rent my rooms out. That brings in extra income. With the younger generation, hey, have roommates. That's what people are used to. Nosotros de Latinos tenemos toda la familia en la casa y los primos. Hey, start charging them a little bit of rent, but have that nicer commodity, that nicer home. But the first thing is, one, don't be afraid to even just look at your numbers, because what's the worst that can happen? Hey, they tell you now you have this $1,000 truck payment, but when you no longer have that come back to us, you know what you have to do to work towards that. Hey, you need to make a little bit more money. ¿Sabes que le voy a fregar? And I'm going to make more money so I can't afford a house. Because again, if you're already living in an apartment and paying a high amount, you can more than likely afford a house. But we have to bring your last 2 years income tax, again, your job. Have you been in a stable, consistent job? Can you show a stable, consistent income? And then I will refer you not only to the regular banks, but there are a lot of private mortgage companies out there that, again, algo que yo aprendí, you have to go to the Wells Fargo. No, nowadays there's a lot of private mortgage companies that offer you even better rates. So I will offer you those options as a realtor too. If you've been with Wells Fargo for 20 years, go for it. Para que te quites esa curiosidad. But I also want to give you a number to a private mortgage company over here y también aquí para que te den opciones.
So you said something is going a little bit in between that the 30-day credit. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Yeah, I didn't know that either until I became a realtor and started looking at different financial institutions. As we learn, is that you always think that every time someone pulls your credit that you get dinged. Yeah. But one thing that I learned with my brokerage is know that once that first company pulls it, let's say you go to Wells Fargo today, within the next 30 days, you can get at least 2 more pulls without it hurting you.
So it just has to stay within.
What has to stay within that 30 days, because after that, it's going to be another ding towards your credit. But also, igual, we weren't taught credit. I don't know about y'all, but I was not taught credit.
I was just told don't get a credit card.
Same here.
What did I do? I got a credit card.
Yeah. What did you do? I don't know. Like you did like me.
I'm still suffering the consequences.
So don't be afraid I started my daughter's credit history in high school. I got her a credit card added to my account, and anytime she'd get gas for the car or whatever, she was slowly building her credit. But again, I taught her how to be a responsible credit card user. Porque again, they don't teach us qué es lo que hicimos. Man, we got that first credit card and fuimos loca.
Free money? What?
Yeah. Pay that minimum, and next thing you know, it's like, wait,
is not free. Credit cards are expensive.
Very expensive. But learning from that too is there might be some things that we have to fix to get you to that point. But again, getting that first conversation started to say, yeah, you have that truck payment or you have the credit card that's still haunting you. Let's get that credit card paid off. So you have a goal to work towards. Hey, it's going to be a year before I can get my house. Porque igual algo que es igual que nos enseñaron es, se tiene casa, ya se cree. You're not supposed to have that until you're married. No. Have that as a single female, as a single male, as a college student. Get roommates, have someone else help you pay for the home. It doesn't matter what age. It could be something as where your parents get you to buy that home. Because let me tell you, my mom hasn't owned a home forever. But guess what? She can go buy another home. She has great credit, but somebody else can be paying for that. There's so many different ways for you to start and living and investing. Because guess what? Now your mom can be now wealth building. A veces no le pensamos a qué otra cosa. I came to UT living in an apartment. Man, if I could turn around and say, Dad, buy me a house, hombre, it'd be worth like 20 times that. 20 years ago, 24 years ago. But igual, no nos enseñan eso. So again, they think that, to get a house, you have to be married. Es lo que hacen los casados. Para nada. The opportunity is now for you to build your wealth at any age.
I'm like, okay, great girl.
I'm like making note of everything. Like, so I should have started yesterday.
So I guess like in a nutshell, for first-time homeowners, check your income that's coming in, check what's going out, your debts. If you have debts, pay it off. And then visit your local real estate agent like Maria to kind of help you find choices.
Exactly. Let's go look to see again, because like I mentioned, my apartment that I lived in here was $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
That was almost a mortgage payment. But again, we just think that we can't afford. So once we start taking a look at it, and again, your financial institution will tell you once you start getting that first credit, they'll ask for all the things. They will tell you what you can and can't afford. But again, no te quedes con las ganas ni con las dudas on what you can and can't afford. Be able to put it together for your success. And you do that by just asking the questions. Tal vez si te digan, no, oye, si tienes tarjetas de crédito, que no, tienes que pagar todas. But at least you know what you need to fix to go towards that next step. Porque igual, si estás pagando un apartamento, you can't afford a home. Pero también si estás pagando un apartamento and you're only paying $1,000, well, that might be a little bit out of purchasing a home. But igual, pensando a lo largo, I pay $1,000, you pay $1,000, you pay $1,000, and you pay $1,000. All of a sudden now you have this $3,000 payment that you can afford a house and someone's building wealth or buying it in a partnership too.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the most common questions that you get when somebody comes to you, I want to buy my house, or I want to invest? What are the most common questions that people come with?
The first question is, how much money do I need to have?
Okay.
And again, I learned this like in the wrong way. Oh, I think I have to put 20% down. I have to. You don't. A lot of financial institutions, when it's your primary home, again, depending on your credit, depending on what your credit score, it can be as low as 3%. And so here you are thinking, again, you're putting all 20% down. That's not true. It's this misconception that igual que nos enseñan, you have to have 20. So ahí estás ahorrando. You could have gone to the table with 3% and gotten into a home a year ago when the rates were lower, when the prices were cheaper. So how much do I have to have? That's a big misconception. You can have maybe as low as 3%. Another question is, can I afford that house? A lot of times it's going to be no. Especially as first-time home buyers. Queremos comprar esa casa in Westlake, but we've got to think of South Austin budget. So what I tell people is, can I afford it? I was like, well, again, let's look at your financial institution. Come to the table first by, again, talking to a realtor of what you're looking for, but let's go to the bank. So it should be in common, because a lot of times people come look for the houses and then they fall in love with this house in South Austin that's $500,000, and you don't make a $500,000 budget to be able to afford the house. So going to the table, hey, this is what I'm interested in, and okay, let's get the information from your bank, and they can tell us what you can afford. We can afford a $300,000 home, not a $500,000 home. So knowing like, can I afford this? Another thing is, it's out of my price range, right? Again, don't immediately say no. Look to see what you can afford. What debt do you have? And again, that's going to talk to a financial institution to get the numbers right. Because anything that we don't want you to happen is to be house broke. Yeah, you can afford that $500,000 home, pero luego no tienes ni sillones, ni comes puro ramen every week. And no, you want to be able to ensure that you can afford a comfortable living of life. And another big is like, well, it's going to be out of my price range, so I have to go live all the way up in Georgetown or all the way in Florence. There are so many deals, especially if you aren't afraid of a fixer-upper, that yes, it might be a little ugly, but look at the pretty of what it can be if you're able to put hard work. Or again, instead of putting 20% down, all you have to do is put that 3, and you put the extra 17% towards renovation, it can go a long way. So you can't afford the Austin area, you can't afford Bastrop, you can't afford, going towards Kyle or Buda. So, where can I afford? Don't think about the where, think about what's your budget and what your goal is. Yeah, you can buy a house that's for, $250,000 way up in Georgetown, but you work in central Austin, that's going to be a commute. Do you also want that commute? And that's a lot of times people don't think about is location. What is your commute going to be like? Where do you work? And is that something that you want to do for the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
Or however long you're there. So those are the different things I like to share. Because a lot of times it's like we don't think of those questions or we end up being house broke.
That is true.
Okay. What resources are there for first-time homeowners who may be undocumented? Because I know that's something that I have found with working with that population within my career is like they're having to rent month by month with people who may or may not take advantage of that. So I wonder, like, are there resources for people who are undocumented?
There are. My brokerage company, the realtor company that I work with, we do have banks that specifically work with people that have ITINs. So just because you're undocumented doesn't mean that you can't afford a home. But it goes back to the same thing. Have your ITIN, show that you're able to show steady income, and it's not just debajo de your cama. You have to have a bank account. And that's one thing that I have worked with people is, we got to establish a bank account with your ITIN to show that you're putting in and depositing money every week. So there are programs out there because anyone can afford a home. And I want people to live el sueño americano. Pero el sueño americano muchas veces nos confundimos, en mi opinión, es que vamos a venir y vamos a tener esa casonona, esa trocota, ese carrote, esto, el otro, and it's going to be perfect. Y luego nos pasamos la vida trabajando para mantener ese sueño americano. Exacto. And the goal should be to really enjoy life. So aunque seas indocumentado, sacando el ITIN, reportando los impuestos, making sure that you have a bank account that shows the income, we do have financial institutions and mortgage programs that can help that as long as you are showing and doing the right thing. Y no tener miedo porque igual, si les digo que soy indocumentado, no tengan miedo. Nosotros estamos aquí para ayudarles to help get you that first home. ¿Quieres un rancho? That's the biggest win and plus, porque igual muchos de nosotros venimos de México y vivimos en el rancho. Yo quiero ayudar a esas personas que quieren tener su rancho aunque no tengan papeles, porque está la posibilidad, pero hay que hacer las cosas correctas. We do have to follow that procedure. If you have $50,000 underneath your bed, no me va a servir de nada. Pero si lo podemos hacer bien, because again, use that money wisely. Don't put $50,000 down if you don't have to. Igual, how can you reinvest? Put your 3% down. And sometimes it does mean that you have to put 10% down, maybe again, depending on your credit, depending on what you show, that then you can do it a little bit more, pero igual a lo largo, no put $100,000 porque es lo que me dijeron. Y va lo mismo, se aprovechan. Then they give them a 20% interest rate por ser indocumentado. No, there are so many financial institutions that will still give you a lower interest rate that you still have the 3 to 5%. And again, depending on your credit, porque igual tu ITIN works just like Social Security, that you build credit, pero do it through a financial institution. No tengan miedo. We are here to help. Queremos que consigan ese sueño americano correcto y que tengan ese rancho, esa casa, ese hogar de sus sueños.
That's so sweet. Yeah, I do think that, I mean, talking about first gen, but being undocumented is like a whole
different level,
a
different
level and experience of fear. Like, fear of like, no, pues no, porque no tengo que estar aquí, porque voy a estar agarrando una casa, mejor pago la renta, ¿verdad? Prefiero pagar renta que mejor tenga que tener mi casa de mis sueños.
Exacto.
And then it's really hard, but I'm glad that there's those resources out there.
There are, pero igual nos tenemos que hablar. That's one of the things that I feel like as Latinos, es que no hablamos para saber lo que hay, porque igual a veces nos da pena, like you said, it's a different level. One thing being first gen, pero luego no tener los documentos correctos, that's a different level. Igual de que many get caught, no tengan ese miedo, porque sí, ha conocido personas que han vivido en el mismo departamento por 15 años.
Con como 10 personas adentro.
Todos ahí, imagínate tener esa casa con 4 recámaras, 3 baños y el otro medio de que pueden vivir más cómodos y tienen su ranchito, tienen su terrenito, tienen su medio acre. Los sueños sí son posibles, pero uno tiene que luchar para ver lo que está ahí, platicando, conociendo, no teniendo miedo y igual no tener miedo tampoco de los bancos, porque a veces el banco no roba, pero a la hora de la hora, does it really? So seeing what's out there and seeing what's available, pero si lo haces correcto, sí es un proceso. Teniendo en cuenta de banco, teniendo que están viendo que está entrando dinero constantemente, que tienes un steady trabajo y que tienes tu ITIN y te haces reportando los impuestos. Sí se tiene que ser correcto, porque muchas veces, pues, yo no quiero pagar los impuestos, pero tenemos que ser justos. Si a todos nos toca, también a uno, si quieres vivir ese sueño americano.
Love it. So this is a lot of information, and I feel like we don't have the time to go all of it.
Yeah.
But for sure, if you have any questions, go to Maria.
Yeah.
If we'll leave her information. But just to wrap it up, what makes you a llorona and a chingona?
So, what makes me a llorona? Yo creo del amor tanto que a veces me quiebro yo solita el corazón. Pero lo que me hace llorar a mí es ver que no queremos mejorar nuestra cultura. Estamos muchas veces con las mismas cadenas de nuestra cultura que ya es súper vieja. We're antiquated when it comes to our cultura. And that makes me cry because I lived through it as a first gen. And I'm still living through a lot of our cultural trauma that we have as Latinos. Pero lo que me hace de chingona es igual aprender de lo que has vivido. Y quiero compartir esto con todo, whether it be real estate, whether it be a program manager, whether it be traveling to Mexico, porque yo quiero compartir, yo no quiero ser de esas que no quiero ser una amiga al mexicano, yo quiero poder compartir cómo yo compré mi terreno, cómo le hice para el enganche, cómo compré y hice mi primer Airbnb. Oye, si yo lo hago como mamá soltera, como mujer soltera, cualquier persona puede. Y más si es una pareja que se ayuda y se apoya. So what makes me chingona is that I want to share that knowledge. I want to be able to platicar con todo el mundo, conocer que si yo puedo, ustedes también puedan. Y no tengan ese miedo. I don't want us to be afraid to try. Because we're not taught, or at least I was taught to no lo trates. Be comfortable. Aquí está bien. Pero no, hombre. So what makes me chingona is I want to share lloronas because I'm so passionate about everything that I do and sometimes learning from our past girl try.
Yes. I love that. What advice do you have for other first gens out there?
Con lo que acabo de decir, don't be afraid to try. I'm 45 and I'm trying things for the first time in my life, and I hope to share with you soon some of these big passion projects that I have going on. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go up to someone or send a message via the social medias or get a phone number if you're in a networking meeting. Don't be afraid to try. Porque nunca sabes dónde esa persona o that contact or that whoever it is, dónde te pueden ayudar. Porque you never know. It might build a friendship. It might build a relationship. It might build a networking contact. It might be your next partner in life. Pero que no tengamos miedo de platicar con alguien más that might be better than us. Porque igual nuestra cultura, se creen mucho más que uno. No. Learn from someone that is better than you. Learn from someone that can teach you something different. Learn from someone that can give you a little bit of knowledge. Pero no tengas miedo de tratar.
Yeah. I love that. That's a
I
great
love it.
message. Thank you. I got
Well,
thank you so much.
thank you. That wraps up our interview for today and our episode. I hope everyone enjoyed Maria like we did and all her knowledge. And
Yeah. We'll definitely have her back to kind of do more niche topics. So depending on what you guys want to hear more of, if there's like Airbnb, like you're trying to get your Airbnb started and stuff, maybe we can have Maria in for that as well. So just let us know.
Of course.
But yeah.
we'll share Maria's information in our description and our socials. That way, if you have any other questions that you personally want to reach out to her, hopefully she'll be available for
Of
you
course.
guys.
Yes. Feel free
And-
to reach out for anything.
Well, thank you. And just remember que
Aquí sí lloramos.